Today I want to tie one of my favorite high lakes fly patterns, especially for Callibaetis, and this is the Callibaetis Cripple. I'm going to tie it on a Dairiki number 300, size 16. You could also tie it on a standard hook. This is a 1X long hook, which I think gives me a little something extra, a little room at the head. So today I'm going to start off really quick by pinching down my barb. And I'm going to use all of UTC 8/0 thread. And the first step I'm going to do is make one wrap around my finger. That just gives me a little leverage, and I'm going to lay down a thread base, and then I'm just going to pull that off. I'm going to go back to the rear of the hook, about to the barb of the hook, and then I'm going to select off 5 or 6 pheasant tail fibers, just like I was tying a standard pheasant tail. I tie this pretty much just like a pheasant tail nymph. So I'm going to come in, put one wrap, and then I'm going to shorten that tail up until it's about the length of the hook. And make sure everything's just right. Next step I'm going to do is I'm going to take some gold French tinsel, size small, and I'm going to lay that in on the side towards me, and then I'm going to pull my my tail fibers up, and I'm just going to wrap down that gold tinsel, and then I'm just going to hold those pheasant tail fibers straight up. I just broke one off there, and that's okay. And then I'm just going to rotate the vise forward until I get up towards the front. Two wraps behind. I'm going to pull those back. Two wraps in front to lock those down. I'll come in and cut those off short. And for that fiber that I broke off there, if I could get in and pull it off, that would be the most ideal, but that's probably not going to happen. And then I'm going to take my thread over here, put it on the thread post, and then with my wire, I'm just going to pull it straight down, and I'm going to hold it about a 45-degree angle, and then I'm just going to counter wrap in the opposite direction. Come straight up and down. Wrap over that. Again, two behind, two in front, and then I'm just going to come down and cut. You could break that off too. I'm going to go back just a little bit here over that body that I've just dubbed, and I'm going to dub in a little tiny bit of ice dub peacock. And this stuff's pretty long and stringy. So I'm going to put on a little tiny bit of beeswax. What I'm going for here is a dubbing noodle that's about 1 inch long and very tightly dubbed. And you can use purple, you can use lots of different colors. I actually tie a version of this in purple ice dub. You could use regular peacock curl, is fine. We tend to catch a fair amount of fish on these, so I'm pretty focused on the durability of the fly. So again, I've got something that looks a lot like a pheasant tail nymph. So the next step is I'm going to tie in some compared-on deer hair, which I've got here. One of the tricks that I use, I actually write on the back of the skin what it is, because I have piles and piles of deer hair. So I'm going to break off just a good clump. And this particular deer hair that I have has some ends that are slightly shorter, that are sort of blunt. So I'm going to grab that right by the tips and I'm going to pull off any extras as well as the fibers. And then, as I talk about in some of the other videos, I'm going to come backwards into my hair stacker, because if I go into the bell mouth side, those ends have a tendency to sort of flip around. Just give it a couple of taps, come back to horizontal, give it a little bit of a twist. Now my ends are ready to go. Kind of tying a backwards Callibaetis here, and we're looking for a length about the length of the body. So I'm going to come in and capture those with a couple of loose wraps and a couple of tight wraps, and I want to leave plenty of room up there. This is not a fly where you want to crowd the head, and it's pretty easy to do, which is why I kind of like that 1x long hook. And I'm going to leave that rear section there. I'll finish that at the end. And I'm going to come in here, and I've got my grizzly hackle. What I like to do is just trim on either side of that hackle versus stripping it. And what that does is that gives me just a little bit of grip versus stripping it off. And it also keeps those hackle fibers from facing rearward. I'm going to come in and I'm going to hook on with my hackle pliers. And I'm going to leave my thread in the back, something else that I do a little bit different. Again, focusing on the durability of this fly. Give it a couple of good wraps. 4, 5, or 6. Then I'm going to work that thread back up through that hackle till I'm at the front. I'm going to pull everything back, move on to my head, pull my hackle pliers off. I'm just going to pull everything back at that point. Start my head, and then we'll whip finish. And I've sharpened the back of my whip finish tool here. Let's come in and cut that thread. And then I'm going to slide my scissors right down the stalk of that hackle. And then I'm going to come back on this deer hair wing, do the same thing. I'm going to get my scissors over it. I'm going to slide them all the way down, kind of turn them vertical, and I'm going to give it a cut. And you really want that to be about half the length of the body. This provides that flotation, and this fly floats really well. It's not very pretty, but it's one of my key flies that I fish when there's Callibaetis coming off. Hope that helps.